And welcome back to another episode of JP and the Beanstar.
Oh! Welcome back. We're here. The energy is thick in the gym. It's high energy, high octane. Woo! Let's get it. I'm just pumped. I'm pumped. Drinking water and just stoked here, man.
Thick was a very interesting choice.
It was.
But
it was.
Okay.
You know, dense, thick, bulbous. Bulbous is just fun to say. It doesn't really apply here.
I don't know if I like the route this is going.
No. We're going to have to veer off course hastily because the course that I'm taking us on is treacherous, to say the least. But again, bulbous, fun word to say. Word of the day, bulbous. There you go.
Yeah.
Feel free to use it in conversation and prepare to have a strange facial reaction with your conversational partner. Yeah, it's not going to go well. Beans, how the heck are you?
I'm good.
That's
I'm good.
great.
My brain's dead.
That's okay.
That's the energy we have to carry into this.
That's wonderful.
Just know
That's wonderful. We're going to do a little Frankenstein action here. We're just going to hook some, electrical wires up to your person, ramp it up.
You need a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So
we'll get the kilowatts going. It's all good. It's all good things. We're in the thick of fall. It's my favorite time of year on account of sports ball just being glorious.
It's fall, but doesn't feel like
it
fall.
Doesn't
it
feel
feels like summer.
It still is because we've got playoff baseball. We've got college football. It's magnificent. I'm hyped up. Listen, my teams aren't doing well. I still love this time of year. It's absolutely glorious. It just enhances the energy. I watched a playoff baseball game today where it was back and forth, tit for tat, just mano-y-mano, all the cliches. It was fantastic, and it gets me hyped up. So I love it. It's such pure sports ball. There were so many upsets this weekend in college football.
Yes, there was.
My Hawkeyes did not pull one of them off.
Yep.
They were decisively on the other side of that. So, thanks for bringing some order to the chaos, Iowa. But the chaos ran amok. The Nerds beat the Tide. Vanderbilt against Alabama.
I love it.
Incredible.
Let them run.
Incredible. Glorious. They tore down the goalposts and tossed them in a river. That's magnificent.
Their season is a success at this point.
Yes. Does not matter what else happens.
Agreed.
Yep. The team could quit. They could play with 8 men, get obliterated week after week. Doesn't matter.
No, they pulled off the unbelievable.
100%. Well, we've got a slew of unbelievable, phenomenal, wonderful content, chaotic even, coming your direction on this episode. We're going to keep rolling through the various segments that we've been introducing and rolling out in the last several pods. Not the least of which is the thing that you change about a character to make them better. We're going to hear my point of view, whether you like it or not. You're going to have a Beans Beef coming at you. And another new segment that we're dropping in, short but sweet, is we're going to give you, with each podcast episode, a recommendation of a comic that, hey, you should check out. You should read. It's worth your time. It's worth your while. Because obviously the library is vast on what a person could read in the comics world to the point of overwhelming. So we're going to try and pull some nuggets out of the bulbous morass of options. I can't get away from the word bulbous. So sorry. It's a problem, but it's going to stay a problem for the rest of the episode. And give you some of our recommendations. We also have a Thunderbolts trailer.
Yes, we do.
To recap and discuss. That's exciting. A little bit of casting news. Spoiler alert, it's Green Lantern themed again. I think that's 3 pods in a row. You're welcome. Then, of course, we'll get into another classic. JP and the Beans top 5. So I'm excited. Are you ready to roll, Riles?
I am as ready as I could be today.
Let's friggin' do it.
We are here.
We're here. All right. From the top, one thing that you would change about a comic book character to make them better. The 2 candidates today, again, we're pulling one from Marvel, one from DC. On the Marvel side, Captain America. On the DC side, Wonder Woman. We're going to start with Captain America. I'm going to go first.
Okay.
All right. The one thing that I would change about Captain America in the comics to make him better is I want to make him older, right? I understand he's old, but I want to legitimately age Steve Rogers up and out of wearing the Captain America mantle. I want Steve Rogers to enter into his Batman Beyond phase where he is mentoring and tutoring and cultivating the next generation of Captain Americas. And yes, of course, he can step out from behind the shadows and step into the brawl once in a great while. How fun would that be? Gray-haired Steve Rogers throwing down. But listen, my guy's been doing it for a while. I can't think of a better, just genuine teacher and leader than Steve Rogers. He wants to disciple people, if you will, help them grow both inside and out. The guy shouldn't be on the front lines anymore. And if we're being honest, one of the most ridiculous things in comics is how these characters, not just Steve Rogers, all of them have been around for decades and have legitimately aged 5 years. That's it. That's it. So it's pretty silly. It makes room for some fresh folks to wear that Captain America mantle. And listen, some have already worn it quite well. Our boy Bucky Barnes, hey, he did pretty well. All right, let's get some more of that action. Sam Wilson, sure. That's what I would love to see is Steve Rogers lean into the tactician side. Use all that experience to your advantage, but get some gray hair, kick your feet up behind a chair, start training up the next generation. That's my take on Captain America. Let's let the guy actually be old for a change.
Fair enough.
Hot take.
Fair enough. That is a bold take.
Right?
But you know what? Old Cap, I believe, was well received.
Yes.
So it's not like a crazy thing in the world.
No.
So, yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it. You can even invite some fresh villains into the mix, right? Because if Cap has aged out, hey, listen, the Red Skull should have aged out. Zemo should have aged out. Freshness. Let's go. Let's see it.
Okay.
So there you go. There's my Captain America take. Riles, what about you?
Okay, like I said, I'm not proud of these picks.
That's okay.
We're just going to do it.
Lean
so
it.
I have two options.
Okay.
Number one, I think it's kind of silly that Captain America is not bulletproof. Okay? So if I were going to change Captain America,
right,
I would make this dude be able to take an RPG to the chest and then just be able to walk out of the smoke. Because that is America. We can take the firepower and just
march ahead.
Dust it off. Mm-hmm. So now, if this is like pure indestructibility or it's just the plain old bulletproof, that's great. And you're probably thinking, well, the shield is there to deflect the bullets. Well, he doesn't have to worry about that. He still has the shield. Sure. He can just be without it for a little bit when he's throwing it and not have to worry about taking one to the side.
Sure.
So it's either that or upgrading it so his suit is more militaristic.
Sure.
Because I feel like when it looked like, for instance, his World War II fit from even Captain America First Avenger.
Right. Very comic accurate.
I love that suit.
Yep.
It's awesome. So for him to lean back into that, I think would be great.
Yep.
The other option I had is to get him a giant bald eagle for a pet, about the size of a pterodactyl. Because it would be absolutely ridiculous. And nothing screams America more than Cap himself just riding into battle.
He's going to name it Sam.
On a giant bald eagle. See, I also had this thought, okay, because people don't think about this because they didn't do it in the movies.
Oh.
Sam Wilson can talk to birds.
Legitimately.
Why, when he's Captain America, don't get me wrong, he's got the pet falcon, that's great. Upgrade, dude. You should have a bald eagle at this point repping you at all times, okay? That's what's missing.
Color Me is endorsing the bald eagle idea.
So,
I mean, that's fantastic.
For that, because it's Red Wing, if in this next Captain America movie, they're like, you know what? Red Wing as a drone was cool. Let's get a bigger, badder looking drone, and it represents like a bald eagle or something. Like even like a Transformer-esque bird. All right, I'm taking that any day of the week. All right, so that's what we're upgrading the American in Captain America.
Yep.
I don't think anything else screams Captain America more than that.
It makes me wonder how there hasn't been a bald eagle companion in his life up to this point.
Yes. How does Peacemaker have a pet bald eagle before Captain America? It is in the name.
That's pure pocket
Captain America. That's where I'm at with that.
Okay. I love that. That's great. Great takes on Captain America. All right. Let's move on to Wonder Woman. One thing that you would change to make Wonder Woman better. Okay. You go first.
So, you look at Wonder Woman. She is the warrior princess, right? But a lot of her stuff is like either her armbands or her lasso. Sometimes she has a sword and a shield.
Yep.
I think you need to lean more into the Roman Greek mythology. Give her a spear.
Ooh.
I want her to have a spear.
Sure.
Because that was like one of the main weapons for the Romans and the Greeks.
Yep.
If I'm correct, could be wrong. So I think it would be
You are correct.
quite a pull for that to honor the Greek heritage of the character. Not only that, I love the idea of her being able to throw something. Now, it doesn't need to come.
Oh yeah, I'm visualizing it right now. Like there's just not enough characters that have. And we just came off of the Captain America discussion, where of course he throws the spear and a shield on a regular basis, and it's a delight to see. How fantastic is it to see someone chuck a spear around? Come on, it's a freaking harpoon.
And I feel like she'd be really good at like the with it, just in general.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's the tricky part. Is like how she gets it back, because you don't want it to just magically come back to you.
Correct.
Because then it's too much like Thor.
Yeah. You can't have the Thor or Captain America activity where it always boomerangs back to you.
Right. So maybe she has some other thing, I don't know.
Still has the sword, still has I called them gauntlets earlier, I misspoke, the bracelets.
Yes.
Yep.
So maybe she just has to be smart when she throws it.
Sure.
But I think that would just really tie the character together. It would stand out. You know how common swords and shields are, and how common,
right? You're giving her an uncommon, unique weapon. Well, and so I'm coming fresh off of having wrapped up, and we'll get into this later, of course. But Rings of Power season 2 and the elves in Lord of the Rings lore are outstanding spear wielders, and in particular, their High King Gil-galad is famous for having a spear that almost has like a scythe type finish.
Dope.
It's phenomenal. And he had some opportunity in the second to last episode of the season to wield that puppy to ferocious effect. She can get pretty creative, right? Like, sure, you can, as you stated, here's what would be really, really dope is if it's a double-ended spear, right? So you've got one end that's kind of the throwing end, all right? That Roman Greek end, okay? More traditional triangular finish. And then you've got the scythe end on the other side. Oh,
yeah.
I'm on board with the shield. Or can't speak of the right tool. The spear idea.
Well, I think it would help her stand out more.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, I mean, I know she's the Trinity and she's one of the most popular Justice League characters, but like I said, one's a lasso. It's used for other purposes, and that's just to get people to talk. Right, so to have
that's pretty limited
and break the occasional
warfare
and break the occasional neck, but
there you are. Sure.
Other than that, I don't know. I think the sword and the shield are kind of just like basic.
Yep.
So that's where I'm at. I want to give her a spear. The other thing I was going to say is get rid of the invisible jet, but I figured that was too obvious of a thing.
See, that was on my list of options as well.
I feel like it's too obvious.
Well,
she can fly. See, that's what didn't make sense to me.
So here's where I'll step in with my take. Her power set, you mentioned a couple of things, right? She's a member of the DC Trinity, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And yet, her power set is far and away the least well-defined out of those three critical characters. Superman, you know exactly what he can do. Essentially anything. He's invulnerable unless it's kryptonite, right? He's got the laser eyes. He's got the freeze breath. He's got all the perks that come with being invulnerable, exceptionally fast, can fly, so on and so forth. Batman, totally human. So he's limited by everybody else's human limitations. He's just a physical specimen and a freak. And yet Wonder Woman falls, and has fallen for a long time, in this ambiguous, what can she do? What can she not do? And I feel like that lack of definition is a disservice to her. So what I would like to see is some more tangible definition brought to the fore, and err on the side of making her a freaking unit, right? Like where she is also invulnerable.
But she's a goddess.
She's a goddess. So, and lean into that is where I'm coming from with this is, by all means, get rid of the invisible jet. It's not necessary. She can fly. That's a relatively recent development in the comics, and it's a great one. So let's let that continue to be a thing. The other piece, though, that's more critical in my mind is lean into, all right, she's a goddess. Give her some legit magical powers. Like, let's see her be able to wield frickin' lightning, right? Like, she's legitimately the daughter of Zeus, which is a New 52. So, again, within the last, 15 years, twist on that character. But let's lean into that. Let's let her be able to flex the magic abilities a little bit, control the lightning, have some other, heck, even sorceress abilities would be kind of dope. I don't see why not. And it also allows you to understand how she can be part of such an elite tier of character in terms of the Trinity, where, hey, you're wondering, well, who could take Superman down? Superman, I mentioned his vulnerabilities earlier, did not mention kryptonite, did not mention magic. He's famously vulnerable to magic. And so allow Wonder Woman to kind of be the check against Superman, where it's like, hey, what happens if Superman goes rogue? Wonder Woman is right here. Or if Superman is leveraged by, Lex Luthor again. He kidnapped Lois Lane again. We didn't see this one coming, guys. It's wild. Martha. Let's not go there. But that would be, I think, really sweet. Level her up, make her a unit, define her power set, and make it extraordinary. I love the additional weapon. I would do both. Like, give her the freaking double-ended spear, give her the magic ability, let her be as freaking powerful as you can possibly make her. I think that'd be great.
Well, because they've talked about her being like the one that would be taking down Superman anyways. But I think you're right in the fact that it's not like fully defined.
Yep.
Because I can't really pick anything too much outside of like all her like gear is magic. Like it's all magical gear.
Right.
But like take that away, what is she? She's supposed to be like this goddess warrior, right? But
Correct.
You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at. I agree with you there.
Yeah, man, I'm frustrated. I'm blanking. I own this comic, the Superman comic, and I'm blanking on the title, but there's a sequence in this Superman comic where Wonder Woman is essentially portrayed as the perfect, gosh, I'm struggling. I can't use bulbous again. That's not the right word. But no, is the perfect counter to Superman because of her ability and adjacency to magic. It's like, don't make it adjacent. Just let her like actually have control over it. That would be phenomenal.
Well, I think Batman talks about it too when he's coming up with the contingency plans.
Yep.
Because I think when they're talking about like him using the Justice Buster or whatever, pretty much, I think for her, he made some sort of like fear toxin almost or something like that, where she pretty much just exhausted herself out.
Yep.
Fighting herself.
Right.
Like he's like, that's the only thing you can do with her.
Yeah. Because she's unstoppable.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I would just like to see that definition brought. So there we go. Hey, one thing you change, Captain America, Wonder Woman. Well done, Rouse. Great topic. All right. Moving on to the next segment, we're going to get into Beans Beef. But before we get there, we're going to spend a little time on JP's point of view. And my point of view today, the key word, we're going to transition away from Bulbous to everyone's benefit. And we're going to instead adopt a new word. Adaptation is the key word of the day, friends. Adaptation. Okay, why adaptation? As I mentioned earlier, fresh off of watching and finishing Lord of the Rings of Power, Season 2, and I had a really enjoyable conversation with another friend of mine this weekend in regards to the Lord of the Rings films and now the show, and we won't get into all those details, but the word that he brought up, I thought, man, that makes a lot of sense, is adaptation. And it's so obvious, which is why it makes sense, but these shows and these movies are legitimately adaptations of a previously written work. Now, I'm not going to go too far down the Lord of the Rings rabbit hole here. Where I'm going with this is, as fans, okay, we need to decide what it is that we want with for a fan of comic book movies, which we are, we're a fan of Lord of the Rings content, Game of Thrones content, pick your fantasy novel world that's been adapted into the film, movie, or TV genre. We have to make up our minds what it is that we actually want out of an adaptation. In particular, I think there's two primary paths. Do you want an adaptation that is nearly blow for blow faithful to the written content, or are you willing to open up a little bit and go, hey, I'm okay if this film or show deviates from the canon or what I read in the written work, right? And I think without defining what it is that we expect and what it is that we desire from these adaptations, the alternative is to get used to being disappointed. Because if you can't figure it out ahead of time, what it is that you're going to be satisfied with, it's going to be just about impossible to satisfy you. We've talked about this with Star Wars as far as how difficult it is to please the wider Star Wars fan base. I think it's proving really similarly true with Lord of the Rings and Tolkien fans with these, with the 2 seasons that we've had so far, the Rings of Power show. I think the expectations are both so broad and so wide and frankly so undefined. It's like, hey, you have to figure out what it is that you want. And again, that keyword, adaptation. This is by definition, it's going to be different. It's going to be the story told in a different way through someone else's lens. And you don't have to watch it. If you're going, I can't take anything other than the written work as the gospel, great. Stick with the written work. Skip the show. But I think there's a lot of, and I'm speaking to myself a little bit here because I've been harsh at times the last few years with adaptations. I think of Thor, Love and Thunder, for example, and how frustrated I was with what they did or didn't do with Gore. You know what? I've always got the comic to go back to. They didn't ruin Gore for me. The movie didn't proceed in the way that I would have personally preferred. But listen, it was a good adaptation. Flawed? Of course. But also, was it good? Yeah, it actually was. So, adaptation. There you go, boys and girls. There's your JP's point of view for the day, for the pod, rather. Decide what you want, because I think there's a lot of good opportunity out there.
See, I think for me, it all depends on like what it is. I think for superhero movies, especially, I'm a little bit more flexible because you have all these different iterations of, let's just take Batman, for instance, right? There's going to be some people who love a certain version of Batman, and then the next version comes on, is like, ooh, right? I mean, you look at Pattinson versus Christian Bale.
Yep.
They are a little bit different.
Yep.
Christian Bale's a lot more realistic. It looks like Robert Pattinson's going more for the comic accurate, gritty detective style.
Yep.
Which is great, and that's what I like from Batman.
Yep.
So I think it just depends when it's a character like that, because you kind of want a little bit different.
Yeah.
Once you've had 85 different versions of Batman. Because let's be honest, every time a different author takes up a comic book, that character is a different now.
Correct.
That's a different version of Batman. Even if it is mainstream, it is a different version of that same character. So,
and that's probably where the thread that has to be woven through these different adaptations exists. Of there has to be enough that is similar to still be able to recognize that character for who they are. Right. If you're going to do something so wildly different, it's like you should just be doing an entirely different story, different character at this point. And so there's no doubt that adaptations can get too far into off the road and into that particular ditch where it's you have made this character unrecognizable. And at this point, it's clear that you wanted just to tell an entirely different story. So don't use this character as that platform. Just go tell a different story with a different character.
Agreed. I think it's harder for like the Game of Thrones, the Lord of the Rings to just drift from the book because as you look at Game of Thrones, which I don't think you've seen Game of Thrones.
Yep.
Seasons 1 through 5, accurate to the book. Everybody loved it. 6 through 8, they jumped off the rails because the original writer left, and it went downhill very, very quickly. So for a franchise like that, or a franchise like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, I think it's a lot harder to be able to get away with drifting from the source material because there's only 7 books. There's only 5 books to go off.
Sure. That's a good point. You're
too many versions of Batman. That's just how it is.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
yeah. It's good. Cool. Well, that's what I got. Beans, let's hear your beef for this pod. What do you got?
Well, this kind of leans into last pod.
Yep.
Because I think I talked about Noel being in Venom.
We did.
In the last one.
We did talk about that. Yep.
I'm just trying to figure out when Sony's just going to sell Spider-Man. Because to me, the writing is on the wall. The writing is on the wall. They've already told the directors of Into the Spider-Verse, we're done with you after this 3rd movie. You're done. You're not coming back, which...
You must not like making money.
It doesn't make any sense.
It does not.
That was the most successful thing you've done since the original trilogy. And by that, I should say Spider-Man 2. Okay?
Right.
So you've had misses after misses.
Yep.
Whether you think they're a miss or not, that's up to you. But as financially wise, they were busts. All right.
It hasn't even been hey, we've had this financial hit, even though the critical reception wasn't strong. We can at least say, hey, we're making a lot of money off of these movies.
Right. So I'm just wondering at what's the price point for Sony to just be like, let's just take the money.
Yep.
And get out of the whole movie genre, because that's kind of what it feels like if you're going to get rid of that. You haven't been making good movies on your own outside of the animated Into the Spider-Verse trilogy, which you just happened to fall upon, I think, personally. You know? So...
Correct.
I'm just irritated that we're still getting, like... I will be interested to see what gets announced after Kraven. Because have we had anything new come out for Sony?
No.
They have been rumoring Spider-Man 4, but that's with the MCU, so that's different.
Right.
So that's kind of its own animal anyways.
No, only rumors. There's nothing of substance at this stage, means.
So I would not be surprised, and this might be a bold, hot, hope to God, if you will.
Right.
They might be done after Kraven. And by that, let me rephrase that. They might be done after the next animated Spider-Man movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they might sell it before that movie comes out, because we have no idea when that movie's coming out.
Well, as we discussed months ago, this has been such a... There's going to be some breakage in the entertainment industry because the sheer volume of content has grown exponentially. I won't use the word I used previously, to the point where there's got to be some losers here. In other words, studios that will no longer exist. The sheer volume cannot be sustained. And so there's going to be some losses. And it's not hard to look at Sony and look at the properties that they own, that they've put out there, and draw the line between loser and Sony. Truly. I think they have some partnership in here with producing the James Bond movies, because they had some buyout with MGM, but those have come out so infrequently. I mean, that's a noteworthy franchise, right? But nonetheless, it's far from a regularly productive franchise. It's more like, hey, once every 4 years, we're getting a James Bond movie. And even that franchise is in flux because Daniel Craig has stepped away from the role. And I don't think we've got an official announcement as to who the next James Bond
only rumors
actor will be. And that may have something to do with the fact that the studio that has been at least a partner in those productions is, again, in flux here. So to your point, I totally agree. The writing is on the wall. It's just more a matter of why hasn't it happened yet?
Because they're going to get a haul of cash.
Sure.
Like,
in spite of their best efforts to make poopy movies, or that's a little too harsh. They've had a few, and that's not bad, but just
the character
mediocre.
The character himself is worth so much money.
Yes.
100%. So,
yes.
Like, I know it's crazy to throw out one bill, but it's Spider-Man. That would not surprise me at all. Which, again, it might sound crazy because I just don't understand when it gets to a certain point of money.
Sure.
Because to me, it's just a lot of money.
Sure.
We get to 100,000. I'm like, that's a lot of money. So I'm not that guy.
I know what you mean.
So they would get an easy 300 mil, in my opinion.
Yep.
So I'm just waiting. When it happens, we will have a party for many hours into the night.
Yeah. As we've discussed before, it's just so odd that there seems to be a disinterest in how these movies are made, where it's a matter of, why are you still doing this? Because I don't understand how the value of these characters hasn't exponentially increased, right? Like Spider-Man has always been a A-list tier entity. So that is still true. Now, I understand that there are additional dollar bills getting attached to that, but is that really because the Spider-Man brand has exponentially grown? I suppose I should give Sony the benefit of the doubt in that, well, it certainly did after the original Spider-Man movie trilogy. But good grief, in the last 5 years, 10 years, somewhere in that window, it's like that needle hasn't moved. Like, sell the doggone character and then some. So
yeah, because to me, they don't want to be anywhere in that.
They clearly don't
space.
want to be involved.
No, focus on your video games and all that stuff.
Yeah,
you can still make deals with Marvel to do Spider-Man in video game format. I can't see why you wouldn't be able to. So
yeah, I think
that's where I'm at.
I get that.
I'm just annoyed.
Yep,
just sell it.
That's fair. Good beef, Beans.
You greedy bastards.
Solid beef from Beans. All right, hey, moving on to the next segment, the comics recommendation of today's episode. A big shout out to you, Beans, and to our good friends of the pods, Dylan and Saul. Appreciate you guys. I got older this week. It happened, but three of you blessed me with a couple of fantastic Batman works. Batman Failsafe by Chip Zdarsky. Way to go, Chip. And then Batman One Bad Day, the Two-Face edition by Noriko Maki. I'm here to hype up. Every time, I'm sorry, I understand it's not politically correct, but every time I see a name of a certain descent, it's a habit, and it's probably never going to be broken. So, sorry, not sorry. It comes from watching Hideki Matsui play for the Yankees. In my youth. That's my excuse or reason, I guess. But anyway, Batman Failsafe, this is my recommendation to you, dear listener. If you're looking for an entry point to reading a quality comic story, this is a great Batman tale. You don't need to come into it with prior context or, hey, I've read this or I've read that. The references within the story are easy to understand and follow. Basic premise here, and then we'll keep moving on. But the basic premise is, all right, Batman, ever the planner, ever the forward thinker, okay, has put together plans for what to do should different members of the Justice League go rogue, get turned evil. Okay, makes sense. This has been part of Batman's lore for a while. But did you know, and this is the question that Batman Failsafe asks, what happens when Batman's plan for Batman, if Batman were to go rogue, what's that plan look like? What happens if Batman goes rogue? That is the fail-safe plan. In essence, Batman gets framed for killing someone. Again, his one rule. You know what? We discussed this recently. We still think Batman should kill. But anyway, he gets framed.
Batman should kill.
I think Batman should kill. That's fair. He gets framed. The fail-safe protocol is activated, and wonderful things ensue. So there's the recommendation. Batman Failsafe by Chip Zdarsky, who has just recently taken over the Batman run from, I think it was James Tynion?
Great question.
Yeah, don't know how to pronounce your name, Jimmy. Sorry.
I think that's
James
correct.
Tynion. A lot of options there. So Tom King was the previous or original as far as the rebirth sequencing of DC Comics. Anyway, Chip's the latest, and the art is fantastic. So there you go. Batman Failsafe is the recommendation for this episode.
As Jorge is supposedly doing really good work.
I can see that
in the art.
Yeah, the art's really terrific. So yeah, highly recommend. Okay, a little bit of a programming note here. Fall shows, they're continuing along, right? Agatha All Along and The Penguin are the two most noteworthy. Just for you to know and understand, we're going to wait to recap those shows once all episodes have been released. So rather than going one or two episodes at a time, we're going to wait for the whole kit and caboodle to conclude, and then we'll dive in and give you our take and our recap on those. Agatha All Along wraps up on October 30th. A couple episodes, actually 2 episodes dropping on that date to conclude that show. The Penguin will not conclude for another week and a half on November 10th. So once those shows have wrapped, we'll give you our takes. But if you're watching them and enjoying them, sounds like you've got a lot of good company because the reception thus far has been largely positive. So that's a great thing. Rings of Power Season 2 wrapped up earlier this week. Real quick, I thought it was a delight. Okay, we just talked about how Sony clearly is disinterested in making quality content. Listen, Amazon, to their credit, has clearly poured not just resources, but they've put people who care in the seats of the show runners and the directors and the cast. People are bringing their A game. Now, whether or not you believe it's resulting in a worthwhile overall end product, that's up to you. But I'll tell you what, the CG is tremendous. The action is great. The set designs are tremendous. The costumes are intricately detailed. And I think a lot of the performances by the actors have been terrific. There's been plenty to nitpick when it comes to the overall structure of the show. But as a Lord of the Rings fan, I'm really enjoying the slow burn that is this show as a whole. So it's originally been said that there's going to be 5 seasons. And we just got season 2 a good 2 years after season 1 came out, which means we've got years ahead of us, hopefully, of more of this content. But my encouragement to you is, if you enjoyed the Lord of the Rings movies, I think it's safe to say that you're going to enjoy this show. So dive in. Heck, the soundtrack has been fantastic. I've been listening to that all week. It's tremendous. Guy named Bear McCreary, 100%. 100%. Guy named Bear McCreary is the composer. Phenomenal name.
And it is true. That's very Scottish.
Right? He fascinating. I was looking up some details on my guy Bear. He has done the soundtrack for, I think, the most recent or one of the more recent God of War video games.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's right up there, though.
Sure. So anyway, he's crushing it. I really enjoyed it. So I'm not going to get into all the morass of folks that are just, you know what, you're bitter, sad, and angry if you're going, this isn't true to Tolkien. No one read it. It's glorious. It's fantastic. So stop being sad. Get on board. Enjoy. There you go. All right. Let's move on. Thunderbolts. We got a trailer for Thunderbolts. It doesn't come out till May, and we got ourselves a full-length freaking trailer in September. Wow.
Yeah, it looks good.
I mean, okay.
It surprisingly looks good.
On a scale of Quantumania to Endgame, how good does this look?
I don't think
I was trying to think.
First of all, that's not fair to Quantumania. All right,
what would the floor be?
I would say probably either Thor 2 or Thor 4.
Interesting. Okay.
We could argue it.
Title. That's fine.
I think those were worse.
Pick your bummer. But it does look good.
I will say Avengers 2.
Wow, that's a zesty take.
Yes. So
that's a zesty
take. You're going in and you're like, oh, I'm excited, but I don't know if it's going to be Avengers 1 level of excitement.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'm going in there with optimistic pessimism.
Ooh, okay.
Is that the correct way? Or should I say pessimistic?
You're asking for the ice cream twist. You want the chocolate and vanilla.
Or the pessimistic optimism.
I think both are.
Either way,
they're both going to land in the same spot.
Like I'm like, oh, this is a good start, but I'm nervous of where it might go. So I'm going to throw out, first of all, how cool of a callback was it to have Bucky outside of the car and blowing up the car again? What a cool callback!
Perfect.
This really feels like a spy thriller.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dope.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I'm trying to think. There's a couple movies that are they're trying to come to my head to compare it to in the style that it looks like it's shot in. Can't think of them at all.
Style that it's shot in. Okay. Like strictly from a cinematography point of view?
It feels like a spy movie though, and I can't think of what I want. But anyways, doesn't matter. I'm super excited for Bucky in this. I think they hyped him up really well.
Right.
Oh man, we got Bob. The Sentry.
Yeah, let's just run through the cast list, right? We've got Yelena, Black Widow.
Dope.
Alexi, Red Guardian.
Love it.
Bucky, Winter Soldier.
Awesome.
John. Sorry that it's just John, but it is. John,
start up the redemption arc.
That's right. Antonia, Taskmaster.
Here's what I'll say about that. The mask needed to be fixed. And they fixed it.
Yes, they did.
This looks a lot better.
Yeah.
I still hope she dies immediately to the real one.
Fair.
So like I am begging for her to die in this. Yeah. And it's not her fault.
No, it's not.
They did fix the mask. Obviously they're going to stay away from the full skull because whatever reasons, but
for whatever reasons.
Yes.
Yep.
So
yeah. Ava, Ghost, and then Bob.
her upgrade too wasn't too bad.
No, her costume looked
I think that's
much more legit.
comic accurate too,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly.
I couldn't tell you. I can't say that I've ever read. Is that true? Have I ever read a comic with a ghost? No, that's not true. I have. Okay. No, that's good. That's on point.
Yeah, in the comics, he's just Ghost is a dude,
right?
And he's like a thief,
right?
And he's not like high priority.
No, this is a good upgrade, good come up for Ghost.
So
and then Bob is Sentry.
Sentry's gonna be awesome. I hope that dude
they tucked him in there quite nicely.
I hope he freaks out and just goes ballistic.
Yep.
It'll be awesome.
So for those of you that don't know, Sentry in the Marvel Comics is a Superman level of strength and ability. And to the point of really his top levels of strength aren't truly known. He seems, whatever he shows, there's always this understanding of, and he's got more to offer. However, it comes partnered with a real tough mental state where he's not all there. Reality is an elusive concept for dear sweet Bob. And so which Bob you're going to get, whether it has to do with the Sentry or his villainous alter ego, the Void, is TBD. But his inclusion here, fantastic. They snuck him in right nice.
Yes.
But you were right. To get back to your original point, the call back to the Bucky blowing up the car, awesome to see that move. Here's what I underestimated. And this trailer slapped me in the face with it. I have been so just poopy towards this movie. Why does it exist? Why are they making this? What I freaking was blind to is the fact that all those characters that we just listed out, these are worthwhile characters. And Taskmaster. But
I might argue with you a little bit. There's a couple that I was like, I don't care to see again. Ghost, I would also make the argument. I didn't really care.
I liked Ghost. I enjoyed her character. Now, at the same level of Bucky, no. Alexei, Yelena, no. But John Walker, there's a great set of individual characters here. Now, the question that isn't going to be answered until we see the movie is there a worthwhile story, right? Is there a story that's worth telling, that's worth bringing all these characters together? But we've got some good individual ingredients here. Whether or not we bring it home into a full-fledged, delicious meal, still, we'll see in May. But I am vastly more optimistic than I was prior to having seen this trailer. So if they can pull off excellent action, again, you got to have it when you're in an action movie, but what little they teased in this trailer was creative. They already gave us a look at various characters' power sets, again, in a very brief glimpse. They didn't flex with Bob. Great.
Yeah, I don't want to see Sentry at all in any of the trailers.
Don't blow that.
Save Sentry, and if you're going to do it, just do a shot of the symbol, and that's all I want to see.
Getting to see Bucky flex, yes, please. More of that would be great. So
we're back in Stark Tower.
Yep.
Valentina bought it.
Yep.
That's a twist.
Old Val
did not think it was going to be her, but I love
occupancy. Color me pleasantly surprised. This looked terrific, truly.
Yeah, no, I'm pumped. I think there's going to be a lot of infighting too, so I'm excited about them just trying to murder each other.
See more of John Walker. He was such a great, well done character.
Him and Bucky are going to be the best part of that movie, I think. Just watching those two interact.
Yep.
Because that'll be the closest thing. Because, Bucky's not going to be with Falcon. Or he's not going to be with Captain America.
Yep.
Forget that they switched.
Yep.
But anyways, my point is, it's going to be awesome to watch all of that come together.
Right.
I'll be interested to see who they're fighting. That's the thing that I'm confused about. It's very vague. So I'm wondering if there is a mole, per se, or maybe Sentry just goes ballistic. Either or. But that's where I'm like,
Yeah, that's certainly going to be the fun element to speculate on between now and... Listen, I wouldn't be surprised if at one of the next full-length trailers in the spring, if we get a villain or the villain revealed to us. But obviously critical component. Who are we even battling here? Who we going toe to toe with? But I tell you what, again, individually, we've got some outstanding pieces. Let's just see where it all comes together. But I'm stoked for every single one of these characters. The inclusion of Taskmaster feels forced to me. That's the one where it's okay. But seriously, what are we doing? Because nobody with a capital N was going, more of Taskmaster, please. And if we don't see Taskmaster, going, oh, what a waste. Where was Taskmaster? No one.
I honestly, and this is the only way I can see this working well, is just have her be fodder. 100%. Have her die within the first 15 minutes or first 20 minutes. They go on their first mission together, and she either gets stabbed in the back by one of her teammates, or the villain uses that to establish its dominance. Their dominance. So, because I feel like out of all those characters, I feel like that's the one you can kill off, and nobody's going to be mad that they're gone. It'll be either her or Ghost if you decide to kill people. Sure. And Ghost is a lot harder to kill than probably Taskmaster. True. So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
I think that's fair. Yeah, that's great. Anything else on the Thunderbolts side?
No,
Miles.
I'm good.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm pumped. I'm thrilled, and yet there's a little part of me that's like, don't get it too high.
That's wisdom right there. Wisdom.
I've learned.
All right.
After these many years of living,
you are learning.
I've seen everything now.
It's great to see. All right, real quick on the news side. Hey, the Green Lantern. We've got Hal Jordan, folks, and he is going to be played by none other than, you all saw this coming, didn't you? Kyle Chandler. Kyle Chandler is 59 years old.
How old is Fillion?
Allow me to go to the tape.
Because
59 years old today, not when the show is being released. Today.
I want to know how old Fillion is, because he's got to be up there too, 50-something, right?
Fillion, born March 27th of 1971, so
50-something,
53 currently. So he's got a little more youth relative
53
to 53
and probably 60.
Our guy Kyle Chandler.
I mean, hey, they're keeping those Green Lanterns old, I guess. Older.
Yep. Truly fascinating to see. Here will be a really critical tell. And I think we're seeing the direction that they're headed. I think John Stewart is going to be far and away the most critical human Green Lantern that we're going to have a lot of time with.
Which I'm fine with.
Totally. Correct. In the DCU. Could see some Kyle Rayner dropped in there. He's probably being kept in the back pocket for now, as far as a younger Green Lantern. But it'll be really, really fascinating to see who gets cast in that role is John Stewart. And Kyle Chandler, listen, he's a good actor, okay? But he is not, respectfully, and this is me going to have to challenge myself here with the adaptation talk that I gave earlier. He is not what I see when I read DC Comics Hal Jordan. In general. Now, here's... Unless you want to draw all the way back to when Kyle Chandler was in King Kong, the 2005 version. He played a little bit of a goofball. He played an actor in that movie who was in over his skis when it came to interacting with King Kong, but a little more of a jovial, goofy side. I don't know if they're trying to ask him to channel some of that energy, but everything I've seen Kyle Chandler in since has been more sober, somber. Those aren't words that you use to describe Hal Jordan. So,
love it.
It's definitively a different take. It's an adaptation, so I'm going to open up my heart to that. Okay? It's simply not the Hal Jordan that I would prefer. All right?
No.
And okay, fine. So I'll adjust my expectations accordingly. I am therefore putting my hopeful eggs in the Jon Stewart basket and going,
I'm all in on John.
Can we crush this, please? Can we crush it? Now, that's something fun that we should do. We won't do it on today's pod, but we should do is start wildly speculating on, hey, who would we enjoy seeing cast in the role of Jon Stewart? I can't remember my guy's name because it's fairly, I'm going to say unique and complex, but our guy that played Black Manta, now that version of Aquaman is just...
And I still want him to stay Black Manta.
Well, that'd be great. Don't get me wrong, that'd be great. But if it's... Here I am assuming it's no longer a thing. Hello, Jon Stewart. That would work great.
I honestly I like Boyega. I like John Boyega.
Sure.
For that. I also like... Who's the guy in the Christopher Nolan movie with Pattinson? Is it... you know what I'm talking about?
Yep. Denzel Washington's son.
That's Denzel's son? Mm-hmm. Really? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, you got to do that then. I did not know that was his kid.
Yep.
Oh, that changes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder he's such a unit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's fantastic. Truly.
Does he go by Washington for his last name?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Man, I don't know where I've been. I've been under a rock. It's Tenet, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Brian, struggling. John David Washington. There it is.
John David Washington. Yeah. I really did not put that together.
Yeah, truly.
Interesting. So those would be the two that I was thinking of.
Yeah, totally get that. And listen, I think there is a really good chance that this show is going to be phenomenal. Okay? Phenomenal. I'm just going to have to get over we're not getting the Hal Jordan or the Guy Gardner that I prefer. I think the tenor of the show is going to be great. Like the showrunners and the directors that they're bringing in, the writers, for what they have said publicly that they want the show to be, which is a Green Lanterns meets True Detective. Sweet. We're going to get that. So this is my last pouring one out for youthful Hal Jordan, or at least young enough Hal Jordan we could see it for a good decade run. I just don't think we're going to get that.
Do you think you think they add the white to the sides?
Ooh, interesting.
Out of curiosity?
Like maybe he's already had the parallax experience.
Well, did that not happen until he got parallax?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I don't think they'll go pre or post. I don't think they do post parallax.
Sure.
I think it'd be too heartbreaking if they went with that.
Entirely possible. So there you go. Pal Chandler, hey, welcome to the fold, buddy. We'll get on board. Let's see what happens. There it is.
I trust in Gunn. Sadly. Wish I didn't.
We
but I
don't
do
have a choice.
No. Nope.
It's happening.
Stuck.
No matter what. It's all right. Hey, let's move on, shall we? Let's transition into another classic JP and the Beans top 5. Today's top 5 topic: what additional characters would we enjoy seeing as members of the Thunderbolts roster? So again, quick recap. In this upcoming 2025 adaptation of the Thunderbolts, the roster includes Black Widow, Red Guardian, Winter Soldier, U.S. Agent, Taskmaster, Ghost, and Sentry. Now, the Thunderbolts, like many a comic book team, have gone through a myriad of iterations with their roster. So the options are legion. We are here to select our 5 best choices to be included on the team. Beans, you go first.
Okay, so my number 5 and my number 4 have not been introduced to the MCU yet.
Fantastic.
So, well, actually, that's not true. Just number 5.
That's great.
Okay, so my number 5 is Norman Osborn.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want him as the Iron Patriot, great, cool, could do that. If you want him as the Green Goblin, also dope. I'll take it.
That's what
I just think I think Norman would be a great addition. He's led them before.
Yep.
You kind of get the mix of the Dark Avengers-esque kind of vibes, but Norman's such a douchebag, and it would just work so well for the Thunderbolts as he's like trying to be a good guy. Like he would pretty much be the Valentina role, right? So Norman's my number 5. I just want to see this character finally make the MCU. because he's such a pivotal character in all of Marvel.
Mhm.
So Norman Osborn, my number 5.
I love that. My number 5 also has not been introduced yet in the MCU, and that is an Inhuman known as Maximus the Mad. Now, Maximus is the brother to Black Bolt.
Out there,
Okay,
I would
oh
never
yeah,
thought.
totally out there. But I was trying to think of, okay, what would the most chaotic additions, like worst teammates ever? Maximus certainly qualifies. All right, he leans into the Mad moniker in the sense of he is genuinely chaotic and simply trying to do what is the most chaotic action activity thing possible, regardless of what the overall outcome is. And he is an absolute schemer. He's not trustworthy at all. So whatever you are getting on the face, you're not necessarily actually receiving from your sweet Maximus. So that's my number 5. Brother of Black Bolt, Inhuman, Maximus the Mad.
I would have never guessed that from you in a million years.
I felt really good about that one. All right. My number 4, speaking of some wild cards, how about Bullseye, wielder of cards on occasion, but you want to talk about a lethal, not great dude with some skills that would be a lot of fun to watch be cut loose in this kind of environment? Give me Bullseye all day. Part of what's phenomenal about Bullseye is his ability to turn just about anything into a weapon, right? Seems like a phenomenal fit for these kind of black ops activities where, hey, things are liable to go sideways. You got to improvise a little bit. Bullseye, perfect fit for that scenario. That's my number 4.
Bullseye's good. Didn't even think about Bullseye.
Thank
My number 4 is Zemo,
you.
just because I thought he was probably the best part of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Arguably one of the best parts.
Yep. Even brought the mask out.
The mask needs to stay 100%. The mask was amazing, right? Just to have, because you need some of these, more of these wild card characters to be on these teams.
Yep.
And I think Zemo's actually led the Thunderbolts at one point too in the comics, if I am correct.
I think you're right.
So
you're correct.
Yeah, do it. I want to see these asshole-esque characters just on teams and watch them fight each other amongst themselves. So I got Zemo at 4.
I love it. Good number 4. Who's your number 3, Miles?
Well, my number 3, this is the dude's middle name, is Thunderbolt. I got Red Hulk, General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross.
You almost have to have him in there, right?
Right.
How do you not?
We're finally getting him.
Mhm.
We're finally getting the Red Hulk.
Mhm.
It's time.
Mhm.
Let's see his actual general abilities out in the open.
Absolutely.
Because guess what? Nobody's going to get out of line when you are being ran by the Red Hulk. Okay? Everybody's going to have to fall in line to Thaddeus at that point because you don't want to get Hulk smashed just whenever. Okay? So that's going to be my number 3 pick.
I love it. Yeah. My number 3, gentleman you mentioned earlier, Norman Osborn. Like he's just so volatile. My preference would be the where he's drifting into the Green Goblin persona. Now the tricky thing there is he probably can't lean into it too hard all the time because it's such a clearly villainous look, and that makes it harder for him to maintain the mantle of leadership. But that volatility is just perfect for a group like the Thunderbolts. So Norman Osborn, get him in there. That's the number 3. My number 2, boy, I'm torn on the direction that I've wanted to go, but here's the direction I'm going to go. All right. Punisher as number 2. Get him in there. Let him go nuts. I mean, is there a better fit where it's like, hey, we're taking the safety off here. Go ballistic, my guy. Let Frank Castle, let him play. Punisher, number 2.
Punisher's also my number 2.
Yes.
Absolutely. I was juggling between him being number 1 and number 2.
Yeah.
I like the idea of him being with John Walker and with Bucky so much because Bucky was that guy not by his own free will.
Right.
So to watch a guy who's choosing to do that, that is a perfect foil on a team for Bucky to deal with. Walker could be like, oh, that could have been me. Maybe I was wrong.
Yeah.
just to have that guy that's just going to absolutely lose his mind on everything and everyone, absolutely Punisher.
I love it.
He's also going to be the guy where whoever's in charge would be like, I need you to make sure that they don't come back.
Mhm.
He's going to be the guy.
Mhm.
He's going to make it happen.
Right.
So,
Right.
Punisher, my number
Perfect.
2.
All right, your number 1, sir.
My number 1. We'll see if you have this as your number 1. I would be very impressed. I have Justin Hammer.
Wow.
I have Justin Hammer.
Wow.
Talk about a callback. Watching the What If series,
Tip of the cap to you.
it
sir.
reminds me of how much I actually missed his character because he was
Yeah.
arguably the best part of Iron Man 2. Watching him and Tony go at it, I like the idea of him getting a second chance almost
Right.
with,
Yep.
being in Stark's building, I think
Yes.
is also really appealing just to
Yes.
see what else he got his hands on tech-wise.
Mhm.
Being the one to outfit everybody,
Mhm.
whether it works or not, I also think is hilarious. Can you imagine Bucky gets a robotic arm from him and it just stops
Sucks.
working?
It just sucks. It malfunctions constantly.
Absolutely. He just talks it up like he talked about the War Machine bullet,
Right.
and it just takes a poo on him mid-fight. I love that idea. So
That's
my
great.
number 1 is Justin Hammer.
Kudos to you.
Thank you.
I can't top that originality of thought and of idea. That's magnificent. My number 1 is Venom because I want Venom in the MCU. So that's part of this. But what a great spot for him to be because his inclusion in the Thunderbolts does not prevent him from being a Spider-Man adversary in the least. To me, it's like the best fit as far as how can we get more of Venom because you can't overuse him as a Spider-Man villain. It gets to be part of his character, but now you get more screen time, you get more activity, you get essentially, and this is the appeal of Venom, it's like, well, what if Spider-Man was a bad guy and had freaking teeth? There you go. Hello, Venom. So it would just be a delight to watch him as part of that, group. So that's my number 1.
Now, would you go like Eddie Brock Venom, or are you going to go Flash Thompson Agent Venom? Because they have done Agent Venom in the past. So I'm just curious on what Venom you would have prefer.
Eddie Brock is my guy.
The bigger
Yep.
brute.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not the Flash Thompson version where it's much more like sleek. That's not Venom to me. Give me the bulk, the bruiser. That's the Venom that I'm more.
I'm with you at this point because we haven't had enough of the real Venom.
Yep.
In my opinion.
Yep. Right.
And
Right.
like to get Agent Venom now would kind of be like a missed opportunity almost. And also the Flash Thompson we have sucks.
Also true.
Not a good Flash Thompson.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. Yeah, we can get there eventually, no question. But you've got to have your OG Venom first.
agreed.
That's my take on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, that's a great and fun JP and the Beans top 5. Beans,
Nailed it.
great job. Anything else for the good people before we take it home?
No, that's all I have for today. So
Love it. Take us home, John.
yeah, on that note, I was gonna say home. On that note, Godspeed.
Peace.